The Menopausal Superhero series at this point is a 3-book series, and also includes a selection of short stories. The short stories are only available digitally. I'm going to read to you a little bit today from the first book. The first character I thought of when I was envisioning this series is a woman named Helen, who had hot flashes. And you know, this being a superhero book, her hot flashes have become a little more literal. So this is chapter 23, Helen Plays with Fire. Helen tossed off the covers. She couldn't sleep. It had only been a few hours since Cindy had dropped her off after yet another all-night session testing the limits of her abilities, tipsy on wine and drunk on power. She had stumbled to the bedroom, thrown away her burnt-up clothes, and flopped into bed. She fell into sleep like a diver into a pool. She hadn't expected to resurface again so soon. She checked the bedside clock. 4:30 a.m. Too late to be called night and too early to be called morning. But her eyelids were up, and she shook with a restless energy. She knew this feeling. It was excitement. The round of experiments with Cindy last night had shown her what she could do, and she wanted to do more. It had been a long time since her limits had been stretched, since the world had seemed new and exciting. God, what a rush. It was like being in love. She sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, and then padded to the closet and pulled on a long t-shirt. It had been her husband's, and proved more durable than he had. She wondered if it were possible to buy fireproof clothing. Moving quietly through the apartment, she made her way to the kitchen and to the patio doors at the back. She stepped through into the patch of grass that had sufficed as a yard for Mary's barbecue party a week or so ago. Helen looked around. The windows of the 2 apartments above Mary's overlooked the yard, but they were dark. The back of the yard was bordered by some kind of industrial-strength hedges, probably to protect the homeowners behind from having to see the seedy little apartment dwellers smoking their cigarettes and drinking their beer. Helen willed a ball of fire into her hand and made it roll. She tossed it from one hand to the other, rolling it across her arms and laughing. She balanced it on one finger like Wilt Chamberlain and made it spin, first one direction and then another. She made a second and a third ball and tried to juggle them. Whenever she dropped one in the grass, she stomped out the small fire with her bare foot and made a replacement. When she tired of fire juggling, she decided to try other shapes. She made a sort of spear, a long, thin flame. She bent it around itself until it was a ring. She spun it in the air and then around one wrist like it was a hula hoop. She thought about spinning it around her waist, but knew the shirt would never survive it. She didn't want to end up naked in her daughter's backyard. God, this was fun. She hadn't had this kind of fun in years. She lined up a couple of beer cans and soda bottles in various parts of the yard, and making her finger into a gun, shot them with small blasts of fire, leaving smoking piles of melted tin can and broken glass. She was trying to decide what to do next when she froze, stopped by a small squeak. The sliding door squeaked in its track. Helen turned, just in time to see her wide-eyed daughter poking her head out the small opening she had made. Her voice sounded almost childlike, like she was afraid. Mom? It was a truth of life that as a woman aged, Helen thought, people tended to treat her more and more like a child. Sales clerks called older women honey, just like they might a child. Senior food and movie tickets were sold at a reduced price, just like a child's. Discounts and nicknames weren't so bad in the scheme of things, but the assumption of incompetence was hard to take. Helen wasn't sure when she had crossed that line, that magic age that made people treat her like she was old, but she had. It was especially hard to take from Mary. Even when her daughter's advice was good, it still galled Helen to take it. After all, she was the one with the life experience here. Her daughter ought to be listening to her wisdom. But as Helen had gotten older, she had often thought the roles were reversing between herself and her daughter. It was Mary who was always trying to tell her how to live her life, instead of the other way around. It was Mary who wanted to know where she was and what she was up to, like it was her job to keep tabs on her mother. It was Mary who Helen had to explain herself to. Sometimes it was annoying. This morning, though, was different. Now Mary, in the role of mother, was watching as she, in the role of child, said again and again, "Look what I can do!" And she could do amazing things. She demonstrated again all the forms she could make the fire take. She showed her the way she was impervious to harm from fire or smoke, clapping out flames in her hands and stomping them out with her bare feet. Mary's face showed a complicated combination of emotions, from fear to excitement and back around, with a bit of worry and disbelief mixed in. But how is this happening? How can this even be possible? Mary asked. Helen considered. Should she tell her daughter about Dr. Lou and the pills? She looked at her daughter. Mary was an open-minded person in a lot of ways, but she was also very sure of what was right and wrong. But still, if she didn't tell Mary, who was she going to tell? It was all so amazing and exciting. Truthfully, she was dying to tell. So, do you remember those pills you got for me?
And if you want to read the book,